Hello, everyone. This is APO Sports, and today we're going to talk about Kelsey Mitchell. So, there's just a lot on the timeline having to do with Kelsey Mitchell. It's been an interesting offseason, like we've said before. We had a lot of hype. It started with Christy Sides, and then her getting fired, and then the hype with Stephanie White that apparently it was the apparent replacement for Christy Sides, and then we got all the news about Stephanie White, and then for a little bit it was Nalissa Smith because I feel like the Fever fans were like, okay, step one, get rid of Christy Sides. Step two, replace her with Stephanie White. Step three, do something about Nalissa Smith. And now we're at step four, which, you know, I think in the Christy Sides decision, the Fever fandom and the Caitlin Clark fandom was maybe 90% for firing Christy Sides and 10% for keeping Christy Sides. I was on the 90% of getting rid of Christy Sides and replacing her. Not getting rid of Christy Sides. Like, if it wasn't to replace her with Stephanie White, then to me, it's whatever. It doesn't matter. But if it was Christy Sides for Stephanie White, 100% I was in favor of that 100% of the time. Then when it came to Nalissa Smith, I'm with I think the split here is about 80% get rid of Nalissa Smith, 20% keep Nalissa Smith, as far as from what I can tell, right? These are not exact numbers. It's just my assumption of where Fever fandom kind of is right now in these different issues. But yeah, so 80% get rid of Nalissa Smith, 20% keep Nalissa Smith. And then for Kelsey Mitchell, it seems to be even more overwhelming on, and kind of aggressive in the maybe 95% or more keep Kelsey Mitchell, and over 95% consider her to be a core three. But there's a percentage there that doesn't quite agree with that assessment, and I've been consistent siding with most of Indiana Fever fans. As far as the Christy Sides issue, the Stephanie White issue, the Alyssa Smith issue, but here is where I am a detract. What is it? Detractor from Caitlin Clark fans and from Fever fans, in that I don't agree, one, that she's a core player or someone who's that significant to the Fever team, and two, that is that much of a priority of our importance to keep her. But before I get into the data and the information that I'm going to provide to kind of back up my claims, because if I'm going to talk some shit, I better back it up. So I plan to back it up. But before I do that, I do want to say that I really like Kelsey Mitchell. I really like her as a basketball player. I really like her as a person, as a human being. I really like the fact that she seems to be one of the ones also who embraced Caitlin Clark, who was on her side, who supported her the whole entire time. And of course, she's one of the best scorers, not just in the Fever, but definitely one of the best scorers in the WNBA. So I don't want to, start this automatically just going to town with the numbers that I'm going to show, or with my, kind of my perspective on Kelsey Mitchell. We all have different perspectives. I love Fever fan club. I love Caitlin Clark fan club. I love all of you guys. Uh, I hope you don't bury me or cancel me after this video. Trust me that I do it with the best of intentions, with data. And sometimes, there are some things that we can disagree on, and then there's also sometimes some things that some truths of things that we need to hear instead of things that we want to hear. So this may be one of the things that we need to hear. And I don't intend to have unanimous support or any support really from any of you guys. This is just my perspective and backing up the numbers as I see them, and as I compare certain data. This is all that is. So I am cautious because I don't want to be labeled a Kelsey Mitchell hater or anything like that by any means. This is just data. And here's what I'm also hoping that the Fever front office is doing, right? Like they're considering, because a lot of times we as fans and as members of the Fever fan club and the Caitlin Clark fan club, we're going to be driven by a lot of emotion. That's just what's going to happen, right? We see the product, we see this player, she's great, she's amazing, she's got all these points per game, all of this. We're driven by an emotion that we think this works, but I just hope that the front office can set those emotions aside and really evaluate if, no kidding, this is a player that we need to put this much emphasis and this much priority on. If the goal is to win championships. Because again, sometimes the fans' priorities and the teams and players' priorities are not aligned. As fans, we tend to think that every player and every team in professional sports wants to win, but that's not true. That's not true. We really need to understand, because that's how we get heartbroken. The team is not, and the players are not as committed to winning as we are, right? Because we assume that every team or every player that goes on the basketball court or on the field for football and baseball, that they want to win. But no, some players really just want to play. They want to play great regardless of what the outcome might be. The outcome can be winning, the outcome can be losing. They're happy just being high performers in professional sports without regard of winning or losing. And I tend to believe that Kelsey Mitchell is one of those players who just wants to hoop, who just wants to play at a very high level, who wants to be appreciated, who wants to be compensated for her work and for her skills, but she doesn't necessarily cares that much about winning or losing. That's just my perspective, and I'll explain why. Well, let's get into it. So the first thing I'm going to show, just a little bit of data, a little bit of information about a history of the Indiana Fever. I think this is important when we're evaluating and we're setting priorities for the front office as to who they want to sign and who they consider a winner or not. There's a history of the Indiana Fever. So Kelsey Mitchell was a rookie for the Indiana Fever in 2018. This was her first year with the franchise, 2018. Now, she necessarily wasn't the Fever best player. I actually think during this season, the best player was Dupree. It's just that the player with the most win shares was Akonwa. Akonwa, I think that's how you say her name. That's who had the most win shares, but I think the best player was Dupree, 2018. And in this year, the Indiana Fever had a record of 6 wins and 28 losses for a whopping win-loss percentage of 1 or 17%, or if you want to round up, 18% winning percentage. This is pretty terrible. Her first year. Is this on Kelsey Mitchell? No, probably not. But then let's get to the next year, right? 2019. I think by this year, in 2019, the best player in the Fever was already Kelsey Mitchell. It was not bad, right? 13 and 21. So let's look at the roster here real quick. So if you don't believe me, Kelsey Mitchell had the most points per game, and I mean, she didn't have the most minutes per game. It was still Dupree, so I guess you could still make a case that Dupree was the Fever best player. But no, the best player here was Mitchell, and she actually had a lot more field goals attempts. So almost 13 field goal attempts per game, almost 14 points per game. So I think you can say from 2019 on, this has been Kelsey Mitchell's team. 13 and 21, not too bad, but they did have Tiara McCowan. So it's not like this was a scrub team, right? They had Dupree and McCowan, who, we've seen even this year that she's a pretty good player. She's tall. She's a really good defensive player. I believe her defense is what makes it, makes her having a win share of almost 4. This was 2019, but now let's look at 2020. And again, this was only out of 22 games. So a 27% winning percentage is not too bad. Their best player, again, Kelsey Mitchell, but the win shares, McCowan. But then 2021 season. And she's, again, Kelsey Mitchell is the Fever's best player at a 19% winning percentage. That's really, really, really bad. And McCowan, again, the leader in win shares for the team, but Kelsey Mitchell being their best player. Then 2022 comes around. Kelsey Mitchell, not just the best player, but also with the top winning win shares. 5 wins, 31 losses, 14% winning percentage. Now, why do I focus on this and why am I making such a big deal about this? But imagine that instead of Kelsey Mitchell, that this was Aaliyah Boston who was the best player in the team. Do you really think that Aaliyah Boston would have 4 seasons of winning only 6 games or less? With Aaliyah Boston being the best player in the team, regardless of who the rest of the team is, would she allow that? What about Kaylin Clark? Would Kaylin Clark allow, being a rookie since 2018, for her team to have 4 seasons of 6 wins or less? I tend to think no. I want to believe that is no. Now, this team right here, this is terrible. Now, I don't know how many teams have had a worse winning percentage in the WNBA than Indiana Fever, but it can't be many. I mean, there is absolutely no way that many teams have had 5 wins, 31 losses. I actually want to do this exercise at some point. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh my God. Lamar Odom? Who is this? Okay, never mind. The 2020 New York Liberty, although it was only 22 games, so I don't know. But yeah, the winning percentage is 9%. This is really bad, although it doesn't really tell the whole story. But yeah, this is pretty bad. I won't search anymore, but okay, that's pretty bad. This is just to kind of show, and this team too, 5 of 31, or 5 and 31, winning 5 games out of 36. Had Alyssa Smith, who was a fresh number 2 overall pick. From college, so that was her rookie year as well. Yeah, this is terrible. I mean, I don't really know everything that happened here, but this is terrible. And what it just tells me, right? What it tells me here, and it might be unfair, and you can call me out. Feel free to call me out because this might be unfair on Kelsey Mitchell. Again, what I said at the beginning, that this is just a player that wants to show up. She wants to play her game. She wants to put her numbers. You know what I mean? Play free. But at the end of the day, winning or losing does not matter. And for someone, any player, to be part of a team that is comfortable, it's okay, or whatever. Any player to be part of the team that is 5 and 31 with a 14% winning percentage does not care about winning. I mean, I'm sorry to say that, but you can't be, what is this? I mean, how many games below 500 are we talking about here? If you're a player who's, and especially in basketball, maybe in baseball not so much, like Shohei Ohtani with the Angels, you can only carry so much because, a turn at a bat, and he's a pitcher who pitches, once every 6 days. It's different in baseball, but in basketball, if you're a player, part of a 5 and 31 team, I'm sorry, but the label that I'm going to go with is you don't care that much about winning. I mean, just recall all of the winners that you can imagine. They've never had a season like this. From basketball in the NBA or in the WNBA, any winner, there's no way they've ever had a season like this. There's just no way. Absolutely No way. And this trend, this goes back to college, right? Ohio State University. I don't know how far they went in the NCAA tournament, but it couldn't have been that far. We know that she didn't make it to any Final Fours. So this is just not one person who cares that much about winning. Leah Boston comes in and immediately look, the last time, we need to really look at this, because the last time, and this is why I'm so high on Aaliyah Boston. I think she is, her and Caitlin Clark are going to be the best combination, just like Stephanie White said, the greatest duo potentially in WNBA history. But check this out. The last time that the Indiana Fever had a player with 6 games win share or more, it was Tamika Catchins in 2013, 6.2. And then Aaliyah Boston in 2023. So it had been 10 years since any player had a win share of 6.0. And then boom, she comes in and immediately they go from winning 6 games, 5 games, and Aaliyah Boston by herself, because that's the only difference that was in this team, was still, this is Mitchell, Smith, Wheeler, right? Is that accurate? And Lexi Hall too, but Lexi Hall she didn't get that many minutes. No Erica Wheeler. So Erica Wheeler came in 2023. But anyways, this tells you a lot about Aaliyah Boston. And if you're the best, the best player in your team, and you only have a 2.3 win share, that's pretty bad. But anyways, this is just, and again, this is not an indictment on Kelsey Mitchell or me trying. It's none of that, right? And it's okay. Every player can have their own priorities as to how they handle their own professional, their professional careers. We tend to set goals for them that they don't want for themselves. It's like maybe there's a worker in your office who's doing a great job, but they're happy with just coming to work, doing an amazing job, and they're not trying to get promoted or try to play the political game to kind of get up in the organizational ladder. And everybody's like, oh, how come you don't want more money? Are you serious? So people try to put priorities and goals on you that you don't have for yourself, right? I mean, think about all the interviews that we've had Kelsey Mitchell do. And the consistent thing that she typically says is, I'm a hooper. I'm a hooper. I just hoop. I come to play. She's a professional basketball player through and through. When have you heard her say, I care about winning. My priority is winning. We're going to do everything that we can so that we win. I have not heard that. I don't know. Maybe you can show me. There's a link or something where she says that all she cares about is winning. Because if she did, if winning was her thing, like her coming back to the Fever, it would be a done deal right now. Like right now, it would be a done deal. There would be no exploring free agency. Listen, there is no hotter team as far as winning basketball than the Indiana Fever right now, especially with the hiring of Stephanie White. Like right now, you're not going to get a better opportunity, a better option to win. And here, she can not only win, but also get paid. But she's like, nah, I'm still gonna explore other things, other aspects, because and I don't blame her for this, but she may have different, like I said, different priorities, different things that she values, different things that she's comfortable with on the basketball court. Maybe a different location, maybe being close to other friends or family. I don't know, but it may not be winning, which is what we tend to care about the most. But if we say, okay, winning is not everything, then sure, we can make Kelsey Mitchell a priority. But to me, if my perspective is that winning is the priority, then Kelsey Mitchell can't be that much of a priority. But let's also look at other statistics here. So what is Kelsey Mitchell? So Kelsey Mitchell she's mostly a scorer, right? So if we look at the 2024 Indiana Fever here, oh shoot. If we look at the 2024 Indiana Fever stats over here, she averaged 19 points per game, which is a lot. I mean, she's a scorer. So you had a bunch of players, a bunch of scoring going on here. Although, for my liking, Aaliyah Boston was just underutilized. But I think the problem and the issue why Aaliyah Boston was underutilized is because Kelsey Mitchell was overutilized. So look at this usage rate, and this is an absolute crime, committed by Christie Sides right here. In that Kelsey Mitchell was way more utilized than Aaliyah Boston by about 5% usage rate points. So, uh, an estimate of the percentage of the team plays used by a player while they were on the floor. This is too much Kelsey Mitchell. Too much Kelsey Mitchell. This Clark thing should go up. This needs to come down. This needs to go up. That the fact that Aaliyah Boston and Nalissa Smith were utilized almost identically is an absolute coaching crime that needs to be punished by the highest court of justice in the United States of America. Oh man, this is bad. You have your player with the highest player efficiency rating being utilized this low is absolutely criminal. Your player with the highest offensive rating being utilized this low is, you can go ahead and say it, criminal. But anyways, this is not an Aaliyah Boston thing. This is a Kelsey Mitchell thing. Let's do some comparisons. So, this is just the Connecticut Sun, and I just want to show that you don't need another score. Like, you don't really need. They already have pretty good scores. You have Caitlin Clark. You have Aaliyah Boston. You can maybe sign another player that can score, I don't know, 11, 12, 13 points per game, but they don't need to score 19. Or if you were to keep Kelsey Mitchell, she doesn't need to score 19 points per game. That's not what they need right now. But if you can replace, because the problem right now with the whole Kelsey Mitchell thing is that there's not that many guards in free agency that you can kind of pick up and give you scoring. But there are some forwards, right? Natasha Howard is a forward that you can grab. Brianna Jones is a center that you potentially can grab. I mean, Brianna Stewart's not going anywhere. Nika Wumike, I mean, if you pick her up, that improves, everything that Nalissa Smith, and this is just assuming that you get rid of Nalissa Smith and get either a center or a forward on the team. Dewana Bonner is also a free agent, but hard to see her leave Connecticut, or hard to see her leave Alyssa Thomas. But these are some of the players that are available. Tina Charles, although the defense kind of drops with Tina Charles. Alicia Clark could also be potentially a good hire. You got to bring back Feck Benley, I think. There's Sydney Colson. There's Kennedy Carter. You can't bring Kennedy Carter. That'd be a crime. That'd be crazy. But anyways, there are some players that you can bring that can give you the scoring that you need, right? But anyways, the Connecticut Sun were able to be super successful. Well, what was it? What was their score? Their record was 28-12. They didn't have a lot of balanced scoring, right? So, I mean, they picked up Mabry, which is a big pickup. And I think maybe Mabry, I don't know if she's a free agent or what, but she'd be a good pickup for the Fever as well, I think. And is she a winner? I mean, she showed you she's a winner, right? But anyways, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players that average double figures. That's kind of what you may need, except that there's big emphasis in scoring, because I think Caitlin Clark is going to elevate her scoring to a whole nother level. So she may be able to get 23, 24 points per game next season, which again, you don't. But if you have Kelsey Mitchell, you're kind of like preventing Caitlin Clark from fully going off and preventing Aaliyah Boston from fully going off as well. So this is the Sun, and then we look at the Liberty. So the Liberty did have 2 players, right? So they have a forward, a guard, and of course Jones. She brings a little bit of scoring to kind of balance things out with 14 points per game. But this is kind of what I would like to see next year for the Fever, where Clark averages maybe 23 points per game, and Boston averages maybe 18, 19 points per game. And if Mitchell stays, she has to be lower, 17, 16 points per game. But if not, maybe there's another player that satisfies that. I do think Lexi Hall is going to average more than 10 points per game this season. So if we go back here, right now the only players that were averaging over 10, it was Clark Mitchell, Boston Smith. But if you give Fac Bentley more minutes, I mean, this is on Fac Bentley on 18 minutes per game. But if you give her more, like, I don't know, 30 minutes per game, she'll definitely average over 10 points per game. Same thing with Lexi Hall. She's easily going to average over 10 points per game next year. I think Katie Lou Samuelson under Stephanie White is going to be very effective. And I'm not saying she's going to average 10 points per game, but maybe she gives you 8 points per game next season. But anyways, that's just kind of how you supplement the scoring that you might lose if Kelsey Mitchell leaves. So the Liberty again, like we're talking about, right? So imagine this is again Clark, 23 points per game. Imagine this is Boston, 18 points per game. Imagine that this is, I don't know, Lexi Hall, 11 points per game. Fac Bentley, 10 points per game. Samuelson, 8 points per game. Then you get there. You can supplement that scoring pretty easily. And then the Lynx. So kind of the same construct of a forward dominating and a guard second in scoring. So Collier, McBride, and then Williams, 11 points per game. Alana Smith, 10 points per game. So, I mean, the Lynx really did the most with less scoring available. So you just don't need another scorer at Caitlin Clark's level. You just don't really need Kelsey Mitchell just for her scoring, because what she gives up on the defensive side is a lot more than what the Fever can provide on the offensive side. On the offensive side, you're going to score. You know that for a fact. And especially if you figure out the whole pick and roll with Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark, it opens up the floor so much for everyone else. So, Lexi Hall's going to cook. Like I said, Katie Lou might cook. Tammy Fac Bentley, if she returns, might cook. And especially if they can replace Nelissa Smith with someone else, it's just going to facilitate things for everyone. But the two-man game has to be between Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. But yeah, only 4 players above, kind of the same thing as the Fever, with only 4 players with averaging over 10 points per game. But you can, like we said, we can get this easily. Well, I don't believe that she's a core player, although if she stays, I think she's part of the big 3. So she's a big 3 player, but I don't think she's part of the core 3 because she's about to be 29 years old, I think this week or next week. She's going to turn 29 years old, whereas the core of the other Fever players are between 22 and 24 years old. So she's just a little bit older. She's undersized for a guard, which is the challenge with the defense that she brings. She's 5'8", she's fast, which is good. So that's pretty much the benefit that you have. But she also needs the ball in her hands too much, and a lot of times she gets in trouble when she dribbles too much, and she's prone to committing turnovers and just having too many mental lapses. So that's why I don't believe that she's a core player, because of her age, because of undersized guard, when you may be able to get more value, even if it's less scoring, because you can sacrifice maybe 10 points per game that, Kelsey Mitchell will provide. Say Kelsey Mitchell gives you 19 points per game. You can bring in a guard that maybe averages 10 points per game or 11 points per game, but has better statistics and is much better defensively. So you're able to sacrifice that and you're still good to go. You're still going to win a bunch of games. Because the threat offensively of Clark and Boston is already overwhelming to other teams. But anyways, I still believe that the Fever should sign Kelsey Mitchell. I don't think they're ignore her or anything like that. I just don't think it's that much of a priority that you need to break everything and offer her everything and she's a must have in the team. I just don't agree with that. But I do agree that she needs to be signed and she should be signed. But I do hope that her role is kind of lowered a little bit so that the team can actually flourish and that she has more of a concentration on defense that she does on offense, because offense is going to be Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston. We can't have too much Kelsey Mitchell dominating. All you need to do is play off the ball, you know, not setting screens, but backdoor cuts, cutting to the rim, wide open shots, or some mid-range shots when you can create open shots. Especially if the Fever get in trouble by being down on the shot clock, then you just give the ball to Kelsey Mitchell and see if she makes anything. That's better than just letting the shot clock expire, because she's a tough shot maker, which is good, but you need to kind of control as far as what she brings to the table. So, but let me know what you think. I know most of you disagree with what I'm saying, and that's okay, right? Like I said, you feel free to criticize my analysis. That's fine. I don't take it personal at all whatsoever. I'm just bringing maybe a different perspective, maybe something that Fever fans and Caitlin Clark fans hadn't considered when it came to the whole Kelsey Mitchell situation. And just for us to be careful not to force someone to be something they don't want to be, or for someone to prioritize some things that they don't want to prioritize. So that's just kind of where I'm coming from with this. But anyways, that's the video for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.